welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of May. I hope you are well. I hope that this lunar eclipse and Mercury retrograde and full moon in Scorpio hasn't battered you too hard, but given the meditation that I did before I started this reading, which was pretty intense, I would imagine that the energy is pretty full on for you at the moment. I'm using the Llewellyn deck for you. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I do know that we've had quite a few new people arrive recently. So let me explain to you what we do here in the mid-month readings. We do this slightly differently to the way that we do the main monthly readings, in so much as we are looking for the lesson. I think that there's wisdom or a lesson contained within every experience and interaction that we have if we are open to seeing it. Too often we're not. You know, these things happen in hindsight and retrospect, where we realise that actually something turned out really, really well that we thought was awful, you know, or making sense of why we felt a particular way at a particular time. You know, this is, if you will, an exercise in perspective more than anything else. So what we're doing is we're going to pull 3 cards for your current energy. We'll see where you are, what's the environment, what are you doing, you know, where are you with everything. And then we're going to pick 3 cards for why you are in this energy in the first place. So what is trying to be shown to you here at this time? Well, the theme for everybody is release, right? What's coming to the surface and why is it choosing to be released now? Well, there are new things coming in for everyone, I'm absolutely certain of that. But it's about leaving behind those things that no longer resonate with this version of us, you know, or certainly the version of us that we're becoming, more importantly. But honestly, we won't know until the cards hit the table, and then we will close out with 3 cards of advice. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, bear with me, I'm sure it will by the end. So could I have 3 cards for Scorpio, please? There's the first one. Oh, we have the Wheel of Fortune for sure. This here, we've got the Queen of Pentacles, and one more card for Scorpio, please. We've got the Knight of Wands appearing in the upright for you. Who did it? I think it was Libra came out in the reverse. So it's a big time for you. There's some big energies. Like I said, that meditation that I did at the beginning of before I even started the camera rolling was pretty intense. I thought I was going to spew briefly, but I was okay. It sees you very much in the moment, actually. It sees you, I feel, very much concerned with exactly what we're talking about here, looking for the lesson, right? Looking to see what is being brought up in you, what can be released. Mostly for a dual purpose. That is, to be present, to be here, right now, right? Not lost in your head, not lost in the past, not fearful of the future, but right here, right now. And also in the way that you take care of yourself, right? The way that you nurture yourself. And that can take all sorts of forms. You know, we can be looking at the ways in which you've been self-sabotaging, and Scorpio, you know, you are a sign that does tend to do that. I learned a really interesting fact, that Scorpions will, if you back them into a corner and they don't see any way of escape, they will often sting themselves, just to die on their own terms. And if that's not the most Scorpio thing I've ever fucking heard, I don't know what is. You know, the ultimate in self-sabotage, right? But I think that you're done with that kind of life. You're done with that kind of existence, because it is energetically expensive and it's sad. Like, it makes you sad. And why would you want to feel like that, right? But where Scorpio has been very much about clamping down on that very precious, you know, soft bit of you that is inside, that bit of you that can feel so deeply, it hasn't really done the job of keeping you safe. It hasn't really done the job of keeping you protected in the way that you thought it would. I mean, in some ways it absolutely has. But there are deep things. I know, so we've got the 9 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. There are things here really deep within you that are coming to the surface. And, you know, you could say it is fated, it is destined that these should do so with this Wheel of Fortune here. But it's not to punish you. It's to allow the wheel to turn. And for you, the wheel turning absolutely feels like embracing this new version of yourself that is so different to where you thought you would go, to what you thought you would be. You know, the only thing that's ever really stood in your way for this is you. We know that, right? But it seems to be becoming tangible. It seems within reach now in a way that it wasn't before. I am nosy as fuck, so I'm going to pull a clarifier or two over this Queen of Pentacles. I can manage to not drop all of the cards. Tell me about this Queen of Pentacles. What do I need to know about the Queen of Pentacles, please? Thank you. Yeah. So I got the Four of Pentacles, obviously. You know, what it is that you've been clumping onto, what it is that you've been holding onto, without possibly even realising that you were doing. And we've got the Two of Wands here too, which sort of begs the need for another card. I said card, that's two cards. We've got the Four of Swords and the Two of Pentacles here. I mean, the message is deep, deep healing. Whatever comes up this month, like, well, in the next couple of weeks specifically, I don't fight it. I feel like all of the monthly readings had exactly the same message. Well, actually, apart from Leo, but like more or less the same message. And that was before I had any idea of what was going on astrologically. I kind of made a point of going to have a look because the energy was so intense for May. I thought there must be something linking it all, and there it is. You know, because you're at a crossroads now. You know, and I've spoken at length about the importance of realizing just how fucking powerful you are, where you get to decide what kind of life that you have here, you know, and you can continue to hold on to the past. You can clamp down on that, and you can use that to inform your future moving forwards, as we all do. You know, we're creatures of habit, if nothing else, right? But this is how we learn about our environment, right? So something shit happens and we go, right, we need to not do that again. That led to that, so we don't want any of that either. You know, we're just gonna stay in our very narrow lane here and not interact too much with other people, you know, not on an intimate level anyway. And we're certainly not going to interact with ourselves on a level that is painful, because why would we do that, except that all the tools that you need to grow are in the places that you don't like to look, right? So what we've got here is the choice between mental peace, right, really stepping down the overworking that the mind is involved in here, and bringing a sense of balance between feeling and thinking, because you do need to balance those two things, Scorpio, or just staying the way that you are, right? You know, it's interesting here, this Queen of Pentacles obviously has a singular pentacle, and she knows the value of it. That is her pentacle. She has built that, she has nurtured that. That is you, Scorpio, and that is the energy of where you are right now. You don't need all of those pentacles. You don't need all of the information you know, that you've managed to acquire over your entire life about how shit people can be, right? And maybe even to a degree how shit you can be if you're backed into a corner. Yes, I will sting the fuck out of myself, thank you very much. I'm not having you take me down. I'll do it myself. Death first, you know. You don't need that where you're going, because if we behave in such a way, right, as to try and protect that softness of ourselves by armoring it up and making it so impenetrable that even we can't access it sometimes, what's the fucking point of it? That's the long and short of it, Scorpio. What's the fucking point of it? There is no point to it. You might as well not have it, you know, but you do have it, and it is a blessing. And so how can you learn to engage with it? How can you nurture it? How can you use it for something better than what... Better? No, it's not the right way of putting it. I was going to say better than you have been doing it up until this point, but it's done its job, right? When you were in survival mode, it did its job, but that's not who you are anymore. You're not in survival mode anymore. You've come so far, you've done so much, you don't need this extra stuff. You can let that go, right? And it doesn't need to inform who you are going to be in the future. It's not dependent on it. When we've got this Two of Pentacles with this Four of Swords here, how you you just keep the energy moving, right? The energy's got to be allowed to move. There can't be any pools of stagnant energy within you, stagnant emotion within you. It's got to be allowed to flow. It's like the sea, you know, it can look still as out when you're looking at it and it's perfectly flat and it's like a mirror and you're like, lovely. There's stuff going on underneath there. It's never still, you know, and we only really, you know, I mean, really massively think about the power of the ocean when it's doing something a bit terrifying, you know, like fucking 50-foot waves and things like that. And then we remember the power of the sea. Then we remember the power of the emotion. You're like, shit, this is why I don't go near seas. And it's like, well, no, just like get yourself a really good boat, you know. I don't know where I'm going with that metaphor there, but I think that you understand. I mean, like this Knight of Wands. This Knight of Wands is really pushing us, towards an object. Yeah. You see, there's always been a kind of objectivity about your actions. But it's come from this place of preventing, right? It's always been about preventing this, whether it's preventing you getting too invested in somebody else or preventing somebody else, more importantly, getting invested in you, because you know ultimately at some point you're never going to be able to live up to their expectations. And so you might as well just call it quits now. And yeah, it'll hurt them a little bit now, but at some point in the future, you know, they'll probably thank you for it. But we're changing the kind of objectivity because this is you, you know. I read a thing. Where did I wrote it down? What did I do? I wrote it down and then I lost it again. It was principle over... Where the fuck did I write that? Principle over precedent. That's where you are right now. Right? We're getting rid of the precedents. It's almost like you're coming to the world a little bit fresher, you know, reborn, phoenix energy, for sure. But there's clarity coming now that you never had before, and it's informing your actions. More than that, it's allowing you to be right here, right now. You know, it's taking your narrative of your past, and it's changing it, right? And if you change the past, then you change the present. You change your narrative of of your past, you end up being different in the here and now. And if you are different in the here and now, then there are different options open to you. But here's just a random anecdote for that, right? So I did my birth chart, I don't know, like 7 years ago, something like that. And then and so I looked at it and I was like, oh, gosh, that seems a bit stormy. And then New Year's Eve a few years ago, I spent like 6.5 hours doing a, you know, massive autistic deep dive like I do on what it actually fucking meant. So I looked up all of the houses and, you know, what my planet's position in these things actually meant. And, you know, seeing that stellium that I had in the 7th house and in the 8th house made perfect sense to me. And Pluto and Saturn were in the 8th house as well, which is just like, oh, right. And it fit, it was right. I understood myself in light of what I had seen there. But then, wonderful, wonderful person that I know called Mackenzie did my birth chart again, but she did it using the whole signs, whole houses, right? I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't at all, right? And it came out with the planets in very different positions. And it blew my fucking mind because I'm sitting there and she's telling me what all of this means. And it makes sense in just the same way as the other birth chart made sense too. But I didn't have a stellium in the 8th house anymore. I didn't have Saturn in the 8th house anymore. It's sitting somewhere else. It was in like the 9th or 10th house now. And I'm like, huh. Because all of the information in both birth charts were correct. And the interpretations were both correct. But it changed the way that I saw myself. Right? And there was a lifting that came with it. Now I feel like this is a similar sort of thing that's going on with you. It's like all the information about the past is correct, but there are different ways of interpreting it, right? And if you run the numbers a different way, you come up with something entirely different. So you might have felt entirely cursed, like literally cursed. Perhaps, you know, I've got the biggest karmic debt in the world, something like that, right? And maybe all of your life experiences up until this point have absolutely, you know, confirmed that to you. But there's now a new way that you are looking at yourself. perhaps it's come through new information, like my birth chart with Mackenzie, or, could be anything. Could be just, shower thoughts that you have. And now this new information is also correct. But it's making you look at the old and say, that was right for then, but this is right for me now, and this is different, right? I'm seeing myself differently. That feels to me like the process that you're undergoing here. So it's not even necessarily having to make sense of things that have happened to you, like there must have been a greater meaning and things like that. It all just came together to make you who you were. But who you were is not who you are, and it's certainly not who you're becoming. And so having an easier grip on those things so that you can just release them as they need to go, which seems to be what's happening for you here. It's going to open up a lot of new doors, Scorpio. Now, let's have a look and see why you are in this energy in the first place. I mean, I feel like it's all pretty much said here. We have the Death card. Absolute, that speechless. I don't know why I'm speechless, because you always show up in your own readings, right? But there you are. Right? We're coming to the core of Scorpio. We're coming to the core of who you actually are. And we're taking the energy of this. It is deeply transformative. Like, this is a deeply transformative time for you. Because it's showing you that you always have a choice. Right? Even down to something as profound as your history. You have a choice in the way that you see that. You have a choice in the way that you interpret it. Right? You don't have to fudge facts. You don't have to squeeze things in to make things fit. You could just accept that it was right then, that was how you felt. That's okay. And then very easily release that view of yourself and move forwards to accept something else. This Five of Pentacles is showing you here how you have suffered, how you have struggled. I know how you've suffered and struggled, Scorpio. I do know that. And I do know how you have been somewhat prone to not taking care of yourself. And I don't mean, not eating properly or, not bathing regularly, that sort of thing. I'm talking about something really much deeper than that. Because taking care of yourself for me includes taking care of your spiritual and emotional health. Now, you might say, well, I've done that. That's why I was doing what I was doing. Yes, that's a fair point. And that was right for you then, when you were in survival mode, but you're not in survival mode anymore, right? So taking care of your spiritual and emotional health means something very, very different to you now than it did before, right? Does that make sense? Let's see if there's another card here that wants to come out for that. Five of Pentacles. Got the Tower. Yeah, I mean, fuck. Obviously, we've got the Tower because it's you. Right? We're blowing that shit up. This doesn't get to be part of your existence anymore. It's a card of lack. It's a card of poverty. It's a card of you being separated from the one thing that you've always wanted, which is, the ability to be able to experience your emotions at the level that you are supposed to, without there being pain, without there being, all of that other crap attached to it. It's a cleansing, it's a purging here. The Tower is taking all of that away from you, and whatever way it comes in for you, Scorpio, just roll with it. Just for the next few weeks, just roll with it. Try not to attach yourself too much to anything in the next few weeks, because it looks like, from what I understand, it's the fixed signs that are getting utterly battered with this one, and that would make sense, right? We're never the best at letting things go. But at the same time, if the fixed signs that are so fundamental to everything can restructure their foundations and show up differently, it provides the space for everybody else to do the same. And I think it's really important. I think it's important on a collective soul level, as well as an individual level too. Sorry if you can hear huffing. Silas has started taking to coming and being in the library with me when I'm doing readings. And he's dreaming furiously and there's Alexa twitching. Anyway, can I have some advice for Scorpio, please? We've got one card. We've got the Four of Swords. We've got the Seven of Wands. Yep. One more card for Scorpio, please. Thank you. We have the Queen of Wands. Yeah. The Temperance card. There it is again. I think this deep release, leading to deep healing more than anything else, right? I love this Temperance card. He's literally like running in his dream now, because this Temperance figure here is actually underwater, right? It's called the Keeper of the Well, but she's underwater. There's no silt there. There's nothing obscuring her vision. She's not looking uncomfortable in any way. She's just sitting in her emotions, and that is you at this point. You know, give the mind a rest for sure. Don't be thinking too hard about anything. Like, we're being as the water, like Bruce Lee said, right? You're just going to roll with the water. But try and keep your peace with everything, right? Do not be too quick to action at this point. I know Jupiter went into Aries, what was it, the 10th of May or something like that, right? So we've all got that kind of energy of wanting to start things, but in likelihood, we're all going to kind of jump into things just a little bit too quickly, realistically. And if you can just sit with it, if you can just be peaceful instead, and allow whatever the tower is doing to just kind of work its way out. So you stand at a safe distance and just be like, okay, just wait for all of that, you know, whatever, to fall to the floor, everything to settle down. Not need to push yourself into confrontations or anything that kind of, or even, you know, with yourself. Something makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't immediately shut it down. Don't immediately, you know, try and defend yourself against it, because that's your ego kicking off. And we're not interested in the ego. We would like to park the ego for now. You know? And then we've got this Queen of Wands. And I think of all of the queens, she's the one. She's confident. Right? She's all of those wonderful things. Like, she's bold and dynamic, and she's confident, and she's seen, you know? I think allow yourself to be seen as you are, Scorpio. I don't think there's anything for you to fear at all this month. But do not be drawn into confrontations with yourself or with anybody else, right? We don't want no showdowns going on here. It's about peace. It's about balance. It's about moderation. And it's about stillness, you know? So, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I hope that this has helped. I've been thinking of you. Take care, and I'll see you soon.